Mark Gevisser, The Pink Line, Journeys Across the World's Queer Frontiers. Dive into the fascinating world of The Pink Line, Journeys Across the World's Queer Frontiers, where Mark Gevisser journeys through the globe to explore the evolving attitudes and rights of the LGBTQ+ community. As a white, middle-aged, South African gay man, Gevisser shares his personal experience and perspective as he delves into the ever-changing landscape of acceptance, prejudice, and backlash faced by the community. Discover the concept of the Pink Line, which divides nations with expanding LGBTQ+ rights from those with restrictive laws and attitudes. This summary provides you with an insightful look into the politics, culture, and globalization that impact LGBTQ+ rights on a global level.
Love Behind Bars. Taiwan Chimbalanga's story of an unjust imprisonment for being gay in Malawi, contrasted with Mark Gevisser's privileged life in South Africa. On December 28, 2009, Taiwan Chimbalanga and Stephen Manjiza became engaged in Malawi, but their happiness was short-lived as they were arrested under Malawi's law prohibiting carnal knowledge against the order of nature. Chimbalanga identified as a woman and believed she was heterosexual. Her case caught the attention of the world, with even pop singer Madonna advocating for her release. Chimbalanga's story highlights the discrimination and persecution faced by the LGBTQ+ community in certain parts of the world where their identity and love are considered illegal. In contrast, Mark Gevisser, a white, middle-aged, South African gay man, talks about his privilege of living in a post-apartheid, liberalized society where he can marry and adopt. Gevisser enjoys a comfortable life with his husband and overlooks the ocean from his house. This highlights how while some parts of the world have progressed in terms of LGBTQ+ rights, others are still fighting for their basic human rights. The excerpt from Mark Gevisser's book sheds light on the global social movement for LGBTQ+ rights and how much work still needs to be done to ensure that everyone is accepted and loved for who they are. The Pink Line. Gevisser's book, The Pink Line, delves into the stark contrast between modern Western nations with increasingly expanding LGBTQ+ rights and other culturally conservative regions with archaic laws and severe punishments for same-sex acts. By the 2010s, same-sex marriage was widely accepted in the US, Canada, Western Europe, and Mexico, with gay politicians and LGBTQ+ communities gaining traction. The internet facilitated and connected these communities worldwide, but in places like Iraq and Iran, the death penalty still exists for same-sex acts. The Pink Line serves as a metaphorical barricade, segregating the progressive from the conservative. Queer culture in the shadows. In Arabic nations, queers have lived in the shadows, much like Tangzi in China and Hijra in India. LGBTQ+ populations in Russia, Egypt, Lebanon, and Turkey became noticeable, and for the most part, authorities ignored them, and the majority accepted them. However, emergent Western LGBTQ+ culture fomented a backlash, leading to anti-LGBTQ+ laws and hostile majority opinions in Russia, Eastern Europe, most of Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. The weaponization of homophobia. Various leaders including Vladimir Putin, Malaysia's former President Mahathir Mohamad, Poland and Hungary have used homophobia to suppress their political opponents and to assert their country's traditional values. By fueling moral panic around the LGBTQ+ community, homophobic leaders have demonized the West and positioned themselves as moral guardians of their nations. Laws against promoting homosexuality, while rarely enforced, have instilled fear in the LGBTQ+ community and effectively silenced any visible appearance of the community in Russia and her satellites. Opposition to LGBTQ+ rights is also fueled by resentment towards what is perceived as cultural imperialism or attacks on sovereignty by Western politicians and aid groups. Many politicians have accused Western aid groups of withholding assistance to push for social changes. The United States abstained when 57 countries, led by Russia, signed a counter-declaration in 2008. The opposition claimed they were upholding laws against reprehensible acts. Meanwhile, LGBTQ+ rights groups that received Western funding have suffered demonization for trading their values and morality for money. Poor or despotic nations have signaled their supposed superiority over the West by holding on to a higher morality. Emulating the West. LGBTQ+ activists are hoping to follow the example set by Western countries in repealing repressive laws and changing popular attitudes towards their community. While many nations such as Mexico and South Africa are on the progressive side of the pink line, there are still pockets within these nations who oppose LGBTQ+ rights. Citizens and authorities may tolerate LGBTQ+ activity in certain areas and punish it elsewhere. Despite the law protecting LGBTQ+ rights, regular attacks still occur. The struggle for LGBTQ+ rights continues, and activists fight for equality across the globe. The power of economics in the LGBTQ+ rights movement. The increasing economic power of the LGBTQ+ community has forced corporations and governments to embrace their rights as part of their core values. Insurance coverage for gender transition medical services for US-based Fortune 500 companies rose from 0 in 2002 to a third of all companies in 2017. Economic pressure from corporations and state governments forced North Carolina to revoke a rule banning transgender kids from using bathrooms not of their birth gender. Even notoriously homophobic nations, such as Bermuda and Brunei, have softened their anti-LGBTQ+ stances due to the economic power of people, companies, and nations voting with their wallets. The power of economics has also impacted LGBTQ+ prohibitions at the Sochi Winter Olympics and even led to accusations of pinkwashing by Israel, who promotes itself as a gay-friendly destination despite objections from its Orthodox community and former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. However, in Palestinian territory, speaking about gay rights is taboo, highlighting a clear pink line between a boundary that many people cross daily. Transgender rights struggle. The fight for transgender rights is far from over in many parts of the world. Despite gains made by the gay community, transgender individuals continue to face persecution and prejudice. Hardships include violence, restrictive gender reassignment surgery availability, and banning from sports or bathrooms. In some countries, transgenderism remains illegal. While some countries have made progress, others continue to resist expanding transgender rights. The struggles of the transgender community highlight the need to continue fighting for LGBTQ+ rights as a whole. Pope Francis and the decline of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has been losing its moral authority due to its past misdeeds and its conservative views on LGBTQ+ issues. Pope Francis called same-sex marriage a manifestation of the demon's envy, and the Church sometimes turns away queer individuals. In various Catholic countries, anti-LGBTQ+ movements have prevailed, resulting in severe declines in congregants. Global views on queer identity. Although 69 countries still consider homosexuality illegal, more nations are recognizing gay and transgender human rights. As attitudes towards the LGBTQ+ community worldwide soften, more youths are identifying as queer. In parts of Africa and India, people can now comfortably embrace their sexuality. The US has also made progress. Only 4 years after legalizing same-sex marriage, a 2019 poll found that 70% of voters were willing to elect a gay president. Nevertheless, Taiwan Chimbalanga, a Malawi native who was jailed for being gay, still struggles to sustain herself in South Africa.
In closing, The Pink Line, Journeys Across the World's Queer Frontiers presents a compelling exploration of LGBTQ+ rights, and how they have evolved across the globe. The concept of the pink line exposes the contrast between countries with expanding rights and those with regressive laws. Despite steady progress in some areas, discrimination and violence remain prevalent in many regions. Economic forces and corporate pressure have influenced LGBTQ+ rights, yet transgender individuals still face unique challenges and increased levels of persecution even in progressive countries. As the world continues to evolve, the struggle for LGBTQ+ rights moves forward. inching the needle towards a more inclusive and tolerant society.